The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
Etuna, thank you so much for being with us. I was impressed by your presentation during the Expo Georgia, which was like, I don't know, first maybe physical gathering after this crazy 500 days, which unfortunately still goes on. During this unprecedented period, I would like to analyze together with you how the general trends of the Georgian economy are recovering, like tourism, retail, and rental and residential as well. So could you be so kind to begin with the tourism itself? How do you evaluate the recovery trend generally of the Georgian tourism industry?
Great pleasure to be on here.
Thank you. Pleasure is ours.
Many thanks for inviting. And yeah, tourism definitely is one of the topic that is quite hot in terms of pandemic. Recovery trend is getting positive. However, if we evaluate the last 9 months performance, we can say that about 25 to 30% have been recovered compared to 2019.
Okay.
So, which means that because of the lack of the international tourism, we could not get to that great number that we had in 2019.
And it still was mainly dependent on the local tourist, yes?
Before pandemic, it was mainly dependent on international tourists, because 70% of our tourists have been international travelers. Right now, the trend is changing because of travel restrictions. We don't have anymore that much international travelers. That's why mainly Georgian tourism right now is driven by the local tourism. That's why we had a very good performance in summer compared to other months. And it was driven by the local tourism, mainly by the local tourism, especially at the resorts, because people can go outside, and why not to try and explore Georgia. So,
and numbers and international visitors compared to 2019, it was about 30%, am I right?
Yes.
Which was expected, as you mentioned, during the presentation in Expo Georgia. So, what about predictions for the rest of the years? When do you expect the full recovery? And another figure, Etuna, what was to mention is that Colliers International, together with other analytical agencies, still considers that tourism is indirect 30% of the Georgian economy. Yeah, so we have been working on projections very early before in the process of the pandemic, the last year. We are updating it time to time, but at this moment what we can say that we expect that full recovery when we can get back to 2019 is expected in 2024. Because all it's linked to partly to vaccination rates also in Georgia, because if we look at, for example, European countries, they have, European Union in total has somewhere between 65–70% of vaccination rate. Yeah. And if we make some kind of correlation to the tourism recovery, they have some kind of the same rate of tourism recovery. Of course, it's dependent, tourism recovery is dependent on other factors too. However, this is one of the main factors. So considering these vaccination rates too, we expect that we may need about 3–4 years to get back to the 2019 results. Okay, got you. Residential market, what about it? You're saying, and you consider it as the strongest direction within the real estate.
So yeah, it had one of the good performance in terms of recovery.
For the 9 months. For the
9 months, not only in 2021, but in 2022 too, because for Georgians generally, buying in real estate is a very good investment opportunity till now, and in pandemic it has stayed the same. So they are considering to buy flats in the economy segment, or buy land, or so for them it's not only the way to consume something, but it's an investment opportunity for them too.
Something part of the culture.
Yeah, in 2022, what was interesting that about 80% of the transactions and market size of the residential market have been recovered. And in 2021, we have way much higher performance compared to 2019. So it means that the recovery process is quite healthy. because, for example, if in 2022 we had the government subsidy program, we don't have it in 2021. So the process is quite healthy, at least in Tbilisi.
Yeah.
So because in other regions it's a bit different, but in Tbilisi the process is quite
it's a
quite
bit
well.
lower activity, but you're pointing still Tbilisi, Batumi, Bakuriani and Godavari.
Yeah. So in Batumi, which was different type of investment opportunity, so it was kind of bound to tourism, increased tourism, because especially in summers when the people were coming, international travelers were coming here, they were buying, were registering right at the place. It has been changed a bit, of course, because of these travel restrictions, and that's why in 9 months we have slightly lower, but the same figure as we have in 2019. Because of this high dependence on the tourism. But still, the performance is not pessimistic.
So let's go through for the Tbilisi retail market, and there are also a few directions like high streets, it's shopping centers, as well as business center itself. So the floor is yours. Yeah,
so retail market was one of the active in the recent years before pandemic, especially the street retail. We have several high streets, we have very good mix of shopping centers, and the trend before pandemic was really good, getting healthy and getting very closer to the European market, what they have in terms of the tenant mix and tenant categories. But in pandemic we saw that the main tenants, for example, such as F&B or fashion, they have started leaving the retail spaces. I'm talking about the high street, because of the curfew, because of the restrictions that we had. I'm talking about also in 2020. In 2020, we have made the analysis of the high streets, and about 170 tenants have left the retail spaces, which is a quite high number,
that's
and
that's why quarantine and all the
that's why we have the higher occupancy, vacancy rates. But and the bargaining power came not to the tenants on the tenant side, because no more the leasers could say the rates they want to achieve, because if tenants cannot pay, then the bargaining power is on their side, of course. In shopping centers, this was a bit different. They did not have that much higher vacancy rates, because it's kind of one organism where all these tenants are gathered. So for the people, for others, it's kind of easy to access one place and get all the services, or they shop at one place. That's why it had kind of more good performance rather than the high street.
How Tbilisi office market is doing in general for this 9 months? What you can say?
So before pandemic, before the pandemic, 2 large business centers was announced to open on Chavchavadze Avenue, and they created the large supply, which generally market needs about 3-4 years to absorb that kind of large supply. That's why we have higher vacancy rates in offices. So we can't only blame it to the COVID-19, but because of the reason that just before COVID-19, these 2 business centers, actually there are 3 business centers, entered the market. However, we have checked also the net take-up rates, and net take-up is just half size than it was before pandemic. So generally in Tbilisi, the net take-up is about 10,000 square meters every year. And right now we have about 6,000 square meters. So we can say that it's still struggling. However, the trend is changing to hybrid models, when people are just keeping the offices but also working from home.
Etuna, thank you so much for your visit, and I hope that upcoming months and quite difficult situation with the vaccination and the epidemic itself will not worsen the situation existing right now. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much too. We update all the information. We have the platform RecFG, so it's kind of available. It's kind of part of our responsibility to share this information to other stakeholders. Which is free to access. Yeah, free to access RecFG, so other interested people can just visit and. Thank you, and thanks to Colliers International for being with us. Thank you. Thank you so much.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.